companies. Like if you're sitting here wondering, what do I offer to my community? Like you have something. Take the time, perfect your craft, and then come out and serve others.
Yeah. All right, we're going to smooth it out right now. A little fast. Hello, Kamaile. How are you doing?
What's up?
Everybody, welcome. I have a special guest in today for my very first podcast.
Oh.
I'd like to introduce Kamaile. Wait, time out. Last name.
Well, first of all, it's Kamaile. Nobody says it like that, though. You know, local people just don't want to pronounce it.
Kamaile.
It's Kamaile. Because it's Kamaile Lauli. But I go by Kamaile. Did you know that?
I never knew the whole name
part. Yeah, it's the whole name thing. Last name is Heide.
Heide.
Yeah, Heide.
Because of marriage.
Yes, yeah. Correct. Yeah. Maiden name Durrett. That's how you knew me.
Yes, I always knew you as Kamaile Durrett.
Yes.
But yeah, Kamaile, we go back a long time. Since about 9th, 10th grade. First met Kamaile at Waipau 2nd.
Yeah.
In the church. Yes.
Yeah.
Way back
I don't remember it at all, actually. I don't remember us meeting. When I think back about Rocky, he's just there.
Just there.
Rocky was just there.
That's a good way. But yeah, we don't have a significant way of meeting. But, Kamaile, tell us about yourself.
First of all, I'm super pumped to be here on your very first podcast episode.
Yes.
And I'm super excited about all the things that you're doing with the village, your brand, your company, putting yourself out there. So I'm a huge fan, huge supporter. So my name's Kamaile. I'm a mom. I have 4 children. Married, mom of 4, entrepreneur, Native Hawaiian entrepreneur. So my husband and I own a construction company. We're based out of Oahu. We build, we remodel, we do all kinds of things. It is a Native Hawaiian women-owned business. So I really take pride in that and making sure that we not only employ locals, but we're really particular on who we build for, what we build, and who we allow to come into our aina, right? Like that is a huge thing. Not to get real deep on you right away, but that's a big thing about really taking care of what we put out there. And then for funsies, I played volleyball in college. Fitness has always been part of my life. So during the pandemic, I had just got out of owning a CrossFit gym. And thank God I got out in time before everything kind of went wild. And I started Okole by Kamaile, and it started off as a joke. I can't wait to tell this story because it's just so funny to me. The amount of trolls who have come after me for this name. And it was just a booty band. Like I just started selling local style, local design by me booty bands, like shevai, shakas, whatever. For fun. Yeah, for fun. And it just slowly evolved to like full fitness wear. And earlier this month, I got my first wholesale order for a resort in Kona. I'll keep that under wraps for now. But it really started off as something, just a passion that evolved into a business.
Yeah, so you touched upon volleyball, sports. Does playing sports or have playing sports, contributed to you getting into this business?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I think people have a misconception, especially being an entrepreneur, right? That like, oh, you're so lucky, or like it just happened overnight. The village just emerged. Like, I can guarantee, without even knowing your story, just knowing you and knowing us, like the village may not have had a name and taken shape and form right away, but it's been something in your heart for years.
Oh, yeah,
right? Sure. Years and years. And so volleyball and being torn down and cut and, you're pushed in all sports. You're pushed to your limits. I don't think I can do this. We just finished 2-a-day practices and coach says, go run a mile in 6 minutes. You're like, I can't do that. So it mentally just toughens you. So when you walk into like the entrepreneurial, world, you're just getting undercut left and right. And you don't think that because people don't post that.
No, nobody wants to show the highlights. Everybody wants to talk about the good. Nobody wants to show the behind the scenes, the crying, the late nights, and all of that stuff.
Right. The conversations that you have with yourself on a daily, whether you're good enough, imposter syndrome, right? That you can actually do this like on a daily. And then on top of it, the amount of DMs of like trolls that I have to deal with on top of that, so everybody thinks it's this glamorous thing. Like it is rewarding 100%. But I will definitely say taking knocks from sports and you were starting 6 and then you weren't starting and you had to work your way back up. That's life.
Injuries.
Right?
Any things that you can't foresee happening. You know what I mean? Happen, and it's how you're gonna come back, right?
Right.
So it builds tough skin. It teaches you a lot of ways to just, persevere, right? And get through it. Touching on something that you've said a couple times already, trolls.
Trolls.
For those
Haters.
For the people that do not know what trolls are, what are trolls when you talk about trolls?
Yeah, trolls. Trolls are like internet keyboard warriors, right? So they have probably no space, no platform, no voice, probably no business, never put themselves out there, but they have no problem coming in and trash talking you or putting you down. And which really is heartbreaking because you're really out here doing the work and putting yourself out there takes so much bravery, right? Like, how many times before you press post, you're like, I don't know, like my mom's gonna see this.
How are they gonna receive it?
Right,
How are they gonna receive it?
And you do it anyway, right? You do it anyway, and we wouldn't change that. Like, so, it is heartbreaking because you do get a fair share of people that either have an opinion about what you're doing, don't approve of what you're doing, and they're really vocal about it. And some of them will come hard on your page, some will slide into your DMs, and I've always been told, if you're getting hate, then you're doing something right.
Come on now.
So
you're onto something on that one.
You cannot please everybody.
No,
if you're pleasing everybody, then you're definitely betraying yourself.
No, I think one thing that I've learned is that if you're gonna do something, especially on social media, you gotta know the target audience that you're doing it for,
right?
And you gotta know the purpose of why you're doing it, right? Because I do believe there's a lot of people who we're in a different generation or a different time, because back in the day, you didn't have these people who just willingly just said whatever on their mind, because they would get checked in somehow.
And misinformation a lot of times too, not even accurate,
No, for sure. And so they, like you said, I think they emotionally vomit everything they want to say, and, it makes them feel good, right? But you have no idea who they are. They have these fake pages and all that. But I think at the end of the day, like we, right, as individuals, entrepreneurs that are really hustling, getting after it, have to hold on to the fact of, why are we even doing this? You know what I mean? Like, we're doing it, one, for ourselves, to better our families, and also for the people who are at the edge of taking that leap of faith, of like wanting to do it, but like, man, when they see somebody like yourself or myself or others, they feel more comfortable in doing it, because there's people who just, man, have no holds barred.
And if you're not thick skin, which takes a long time to build up,
for sure.
It's hurtful. Like, it's super hurtful.
Yeah.
And some of the things, like, exactly. They don't know anything about you. Social media is you putting out exactly what you want. Like, what I love about the village is you have a very specific, like, community that you're addressing, right? And because you're passionate about that, the same with my okole, like my okole babes, right? That's what I call them. Like, then I'm not talking to anybody else. Like, if you don't fall into this, then I'm not for you.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Yep,
that is totally fine. But the people I'm for in a big way.
Yeah.
And that's my people. And so it gets hard because as you grow, you want to grow. You want to touch more lives. You want to serve people. Like, that's the thing about people who do well in their space, is because they have like a service-based, heart. And it can get distracting. And so if you're not really focused on what your purpose is and where you're standing and why you're standing there, you can get distracted by trolls real easy. And it'll question you, like, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should, pivot this way. And it's like, no, absolutely not.
No, for sure. You touched upon it. Like, for me, it's just like, you want to save everybody. I think when you go into it, right, like, your goal is like, man, like, you feel so passionate about something. Like, I do want to try and save everybody. But the reality is we can't. We can't. And we, like, at sometimes you just have to let people be, and I believe friendships and I believe certain things are for a season.
Right.
Because at sometimes you have to, even like the closest people you feel like you've been with for the longest time, who you felt like supported you and were with you, sometimes that season ends. Yeah. And for you to elevate or get to the next level, sometimes you just have to gracefully just let it go. It doesn't have to have, like, I don't believe it has to have an exact ending, but sometimes you just got to let it go for you to grow. You know what I mean? That
is probably the hardest thing that no one tells you, is the amount of people that will fall off or you will evolve out of, that are not willing to evolve with you or are not willing to see that you have changed. Like, it is inevitable. We want to grow. Personal development is part of being a business owner. Oh, totally. Like, you have to do this or you will die, right? Like, your business will die off. And so, like, as you go through those steps, especially the ones who are the closest to you, they struggle with seeing that new version of you. They don't buy it.
You know what's hard is when you start to elevate, I would say, or you start to grow. The first thing or the first response is, "Oh, you changed."
Oh yeah, and like, bro, I never worked this hard to stay the same.
But it's like, man, like, you take it like, I changed, like, I'm changing for the better.
Right.
And as a true friend or true supporter, you would think that you would get the support, as in like, like clapping your hands, like, yeah, I'm glad to see you grow. But some people just can't see you,
Right.
Grow out of their circle or grow out of where that friendship was.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes it's been for years or for a long
Right.
period of time. But, honestly, that's one thing I've had to learn is that sometimes I just have to let things go. Even as heartbreaking it is, it's like, man, I can't believe that's happening. But I got to, for, like you say, personal development.
It's hard. It's heartbreaking. I never was a person who believed that there was like people for seasons. I was like, no. Like my people are my people
For
forever.
life.
Yeah, for
For
life.
life.
And I was like, and as I grew through that was like, of all the things I can tell you right now, manufacturing, being told no, like, oh, we don't want your product here, churros, like, oh, kole means butthole, or whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
like, all the things that have hurt me the most is losing people that I thought was going to be there at the end with me.
Yeah.
That hurts me the most. And it's like exactly what you said. That's their personal journey. We don't work this hard to stay the same.
No, for
and
sure.
part of it is exactly that, seasons.
Yeah.
And then as we kind of not let go, make peace, appreciate, have gratitude for the people who have got us to this point, it opens up spaces for new people to come in and get us to the next point.
Is there something that has helped you, I guess, ease the pain or the transition period of kind of like growing out of those friendships or relationships? Is there something that you can recall that kind of helped you kind of ease that part?
The gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I go to the gym every day and I just like, there's definitely things like practice gratitude, like try to meditate, like, and I'm not really good. Like for me, it's just finding the things that spark joy in my life, finding the things that allow me to flow creatively. Because when those things come in and you get in your mind, you don't flow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my feet need to go touch the sand. I need to go into the ocean. I need to be in spaces where I can flow with people. But really, no, a lot of therapy, journaling it, and coming to grips with this is life. This is the nature of seasons and people and chapters. Like they come in and they go out.
Yeah.
I hold space for people. There are things right now that I'm like, oh, I started some stuff with some people and I'm just like, I really want this to take off. But I'm like, I'm not going to chase anything. I'm not going to force anything because anything that's forced is not, right? It's not going to come out the way it needs to come out. It's not going to come out in the timing it needs to come out. No, a lot of personal development and in a weird way, like self-reflection. There's a lot like, okay, what can I do? And then so when you take that, you turn it around, you pour back into the community that you have.
For sure.
The ones that are there for you and that are there in a big way. Like, why am I fretting about a few here that I might have lost, when I have these here who are like for me?
Yeah. And sometimes we get fixated, right, on that small few, right? When we have like that vast majority who is supporting us, who need our guidance, our influence, us pouring into them. But we get so caught up, and it's easier said than done, of like just focusing on the vast majority. But, I believe it's a struggle. But touching back on how you said, like, journaling, therapy, were you always that type of person? Or did you come to a place or did you have relationships that kind of helped you get into this routine?
So I always been a journaler. I have like a billion journals.
I think that's a girl's thing.
It might start off as a diary, like I love so and so. But so I've got like volumes all over the house. Like they're half finished, but they're really funny to kind of go back and look at. I'm like, oh my gosh, so shame.
Make a book.
Oh,
one day.
so shame. Whatever, I'm gonna scratch out. So I've always kind of been that, and I really started like learning about like how your body, emotionally, physically, spiritually, right, is connected, and like how your body has to hear your voice say things, right? Like my boys, we got teenage kids, okay, and like they're in that sports world, and it's not just you're born Polynesian, so go out there and bang heads. No, it's like it's a mental game, right? And the amount of times I have to sit with my child and pour belief into him because he doesn't believe in himself is just like mind-boggling, right?
For sure.
And I'm like, but like it's that, and so I tell him like you have to say that out loud. So he wants to be starting 5, and I'm like, you need to say I'm going to be starting. I hope. I'm like, no.
I am.
I think, right? And I'm like, there's power in your words. And so like when I first started, right before, and I have it on my phone, I started Okole by Kamaile. I did a voice memo to myself in my voice memo thing in my apps of me telling myself, oh my gosh, Kamaile, I'm so proud of you. You sold out all your brands the first time. Like I did a whole like probably 30 seconds of me telling myself that I already did this thing. And in the beginning, when I doubted myself, I would play it back. And it was my voice. So my body heard my voice telling myself. You know what I mean? So like it was those kinds of things. I was like, I became so much more aware of how connected I am, not just me physically to financial or me to a business sense, but like being, you know, aligned in everything. So like that kind of started me on that journey of like, okay, I have to sit down because I have an ADD mind and it doesn't rest ever. And I'm like, if I don't get into a space where I can clear that out and allow myself to feel and self-reflect, I'll go crazy. That's why I love lifting weights. Because if you're lifting something over your head, you can't think about anything else but what you got over your head.
Getting that thing up.
Right, exactly. So like it silences it.
But you know, touching on what you just said too, is that like, it's so hard to speak about the positive stuff that you have to really visualize yourself being in that position.
And it's awkward.
Especially when everything around you is like, you're not making the sales. The doors are closing. Like there's no resources.
Your family is telling you, I don't know if this is a good idea.
But they're not even excited, right? Like I don't know how many times where I felt so excited, so pumped about like this new thing that just popped in my head. And I'm pretty sure like me and you share a lot of similarities, right? So like I'm sure we're the type of people that once we have this thing that just comes into our brain, we're going.
We go.
And then it's like when you explain to somebody else, they're not as excited.
They don't see it.
And it hurts when it's your family, right? They're like, it's okay. Like, so in those times, like I feel like, you know, like you said, telling your son, right? If you want to be the 5, you got to believe, you got to speak it. And I remember kind of going back with my own son. I remember last year he sat behind studs as a sophomore on top varsity. And like I would just have to like, and the problem is we didn't have that growing up.
Right.
We never had people telling us how important it is to manifest like yourself being where you want to be.
I remember it being more like you didn't play well, you running laps after the game. You know, and it was like it's different now, right?
Totally
we know
different.
Now.
Yeah.
We know now what we can give our children.
Yeah. But I believe, it is truly like life and death is in the tongue. And like really speaking of not where you're at currently, but where you're going to be. Yeah. And it's a good example for our kids.
So to build on that, you know, my son, he doesn't feel comfortable saying it. One, I told him it's going to take you time. I was like, when I first started looking in the mirror and saying I'm a millionaire, I was like, I didn't believe it. I would laugh at myself. I was like, this is so ridiculous, you know? And then I started reading books and I would do a lot of audio. And so I would listen to the audio with the kids in the car. And one of the books, the audio, he tells you, you touch your head. You say, I have a millionaire mind. And like, it's the biggest joke in our family. Like out of nowhere, someone might just go, I have a millionaire mind, because that's how he says it. But it's true. So what he misunderstood was, oh, what? So if I just say I want to be starting 5, I'm just going to be starting 5? I go, no. I go, once you start saying it, your body starts to believe it. You start to believe it. You start acting like someone who is in the starting 5. Right. You start putting in the effort that someone who's a starter.
And all the extra work is not so hard.
Right.
It's
because
like,
it's who you are.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's the character. It's what I do.
Right.
These are the things that I do, so I am that person. Yeah, I totally get it.
I am. And that has been my mantra. Like, I don't have to do out of this or that to prove anything, because me sitting here in this chair across from you is me. Yeah. Like, I am. Yeah, me, for sure. I don't have to prove I'm more Hawaiian. I'm Hawaiian. I'm sitting here. This is what a Hawaiian woman looks like. Whether it doesn't look like, you know, someone else. Like this is it. Because I am. Exactly. Same thing. Like, and so that's what that's what I'm trying to, right? We're trying to instill. And that's what we turn around and try to instill into our community. Yeah.
No, I like that, because, you know, like, looking back, like where, you know, I started myself personally, like, and what you're saying, like I'm a millionaire, right? I don't feel like it's so far off.
No,
I honestly feel like even being a multimillionaire is attainable. You know what I mean? And like, it's so different because when you first start, like, oh, there's so much ifs, doubts, rejections, and you're like, oh, I don't really know if I can do this. Right. But then I think as you start to get tougher, you know, thicker skin, you start to go through, I think each no, each rejection, each thing that didn't go well prepares you, you know what I mean, gets you to the next level. Right. And you start to see, like, man, I can get this, you know what I mean? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Yeah. But I'm gonna get there, you know, and it's a truly attainable.
Right. Which, you know that meme where it's like, but did you die? Like, I always think about that. Like, but did you die? Like, okay, I got told no. It effing sucked. Yeah. It hurt. I came home, I cried about it to my husband, whatever. Yeah. You know, I had to regroup. But would I do it again? Yeah. Yeah. Right? Does it negate all the other things that we have? Yeah. Absolutely not. Like, and I think when you hold to the vision, you don't really get sidetracked as easily, because you're like, okay, the end result stays the same, but my course changed slightly. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I got blocked and I had to play. I got blocked. Okay, I'm still trying for the kill. Yeah. I'm just going to go about it a little bit differently.
What you said about your husband, coming home and crying to your husband.
Oh, yeah.
That's like a core value of the village for me, is because in this game, you got to have a support group.
100%.
You got to have a community, because if you try and do this alone, I really feel, even though you're that person, like I can do it all by myself, I don't think you're going to make it.
No.
Because there's those times where you got to decompress, vent, cry, you know what I mean? Whatever it may be. But you need to have that people that are there for you.
Yeah.
You know, do you have like a core group of people that you go to?
Yeah, and it's freaking small.
Yeah.
You know, I think people think I'm like this real social butterfly. Like if I know you, I'm social and stuff. I was like, the group is like 1.5. I say half because I have one friend who's kind of in and out. She's just so busy. But there's really like 2 people outside of my spouse. I did a few MLMs for a little while as well, and I really enjoyed them. But the hardest thing was working with women who didn't have a partner that was supportive. So it was like almost like you did all this work and you like built these people up and you held space for them, you poured into them for them to go home and their spouse be like, you're never going to make it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like starting over, and it broke my heart. And I think not only is that a huge, like it can be done. It can be done. I know millionaires out there who's like, oh, my husband sabotaged me for the first 10 years. And so I started to out earn him. And then he joined in, you know, like I know it can be done, but like we're already, right? We're already doing all the things. The last thing we want is someone who doesn't believe in us, you know?
No, for sure. What values do you appreciate the most in that group?
Honesty and loyalty. Like the thing about it, I'm so honest. Like I'm gonna tell you, because I would do that for you. I would expect you to do it for me. But there's so many people out there who get close to people's energy because you're a bright light, right? They just come right up to you. They're gonna tell you whatever they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
Right, so they can just stay by you.
You know what's crazy about honesty? We all want people to be honest with us.
Then we can't take it. I'll take it. I just go like, oh, like you know, like so. Like there's a 2 people in my life outside of my spouse where I can be like, am I wrong? Read this.
Yeah.
Am I wrong for feeling this way?
Yeah.
And they will put me in check right away. You know, and they'll be like, I really think this or that, and it gives me time to self-reflect. And I'm like, all right. Then I will issue an apology, you know? We
are so much like the same people because I feel like people do attract to us because of our energy, right? Just how we are, just our life, you know, our character and just how we are. But it's when people start to be around us for a long period of time and they start to see like our daily grind, our daily lifestyles. And then we start, you know what I mean? Like you said, being honest, right?
Yeah.
For me, like, I feel the same way. Is like when people start to understand how we operate, man, it starts to dwindle really quick.
Oh,
yeah. Small. And for me, like I look back at my business partner now, like she's super behind the scenes, like does not want to be like in the camera, anything. But for me, that's the one person where I never felt, how should I say it? She can tell me straight and I can be pissed. I can take it the wrong way. But that's one of the very few people that I look back to where it's like, I know she means well.
Yep.
I know she wants me to grow up. Sometimes it's like bad habits, right? We have these bad habits for such a long time, or we're in these grooves, and then nobody could ever get us to break that or get us out of that comfort zone. And I feel like, man, like that's why it's so important to have people that we can really
trust.
Exactly.
But that's because you understand her heart and her intentions.
True.
So I was talking to my girlfriend before I got here, and she was telling me about a situation, and she goes, you know, if you said the same thing to me, I wouldn't be offended. And I was like, that's because my intention is to love you. Mm-hmm. I go, that person's intention is to scold you, to make you feel shitty, right? Mm-hmm. I go, so when you know that someone has your intentions at heart, I know you're gonna clear my name if in a room that I'm not in. Mm-hmm. I know you're gonna stand up for me. I know you're gonna offer my product. Right? If you're out and someone's like, oh, you're going to put my name out there. Right? Like those are the people. And it's amazing because I started off with a really big group when I kind of started on my entrepreneurial journey, like a big group of women. And I was, Mahalo, wahine, like all the whole thing. We raised, and it just got smaller and smaller, and it broke me. It literally broke me. And I was like, you know what? I don't. No new friends. I don't want nothing to do with nobody. You know, like everybody's all please. And because we have that personality, and I'm like, come, you know, like super welcoming.
Like I want you to eat with me.
Yes.
I want you to have success
to
with
use
me.
that analogy, I kind of had to start explaining it. It's like, I've got this big table. Please take a seat. Yeah. And people, you know, they come and they want to come sit at my table, and then they stand there. I sit down. Oh, I don't actually know how to pull the chair out. Sit your ass down. You know, and they're like, I haven't done the work to actually pull this chair out and sit at this table. And then you got to move over because somebody else is. And like, it broke me to see women just like crabs in a bucket, brah. And I was just like, there is space for everybody. If someone is doing it, it is proof to you that it can be done, not that you can't do it. And so that was the one thing that I had to learn was like, because we have this light and allowing people into our energy, but being really cautious of like who gets to participate in that, who gets that. And the group is small.
No, totally.
It's tiny.
And it's hard because there's a few friends that when I first started out, because we were so close, like you said, right? Millionaire. Like I believe it. Like I believe it's attainable. I believe it's there.
It's yours. Claim it.
Yeah, claim it. Exactly. But like they're all for the words.
Yeah.
But then it's like when it's time to show the action or take that leap of faith, they don't want to do it.
Right.
And I think it's hard. Like you said, like if you're not gonna sit down at the table, then you know what? See,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Like somebody else is there,
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like there's some people that has come into like my life or in my circle who I never had the closest relationship, but they have the same hustle, the same mindset. And the thing is like it pushes me even more to work even harder. You know what I mean? To really, and so I think as you build a team too, you don't want to let your team down.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it's more than just you now.
Right.
Like you have people depending on you, and I think that's where for me, I'm kind of at in this stage right now for myself. So it's pretty good. But let's go into Okole by Kamaile. Let's elaborate on that.
Okay.
What exactly got you into it?
Okay, so I just had my fourth baby, and I was kind of over CrossFitting because my body was a little bit sore, and
the years of being an athlete.
Yeah, just years of being like I'm walking around right now with a torn meniscus and arthritis in both my knees. They said, "Oh, you've got knees of a 65-year-old, so you just have to deal with it." Yeah, they're like, "Deal with it until you need a knee replacement because you just can't take it anymore." And I'm like, so like, I have a home gym. And the pandemic hit and all the gyms were closed. And I was like, all right, I guess I got to work out in the home gym, And I was like, okay, everybody follow along on my journey. I'm going to grow a booty. Like it was just so kind like that. And so I got like these little bands out and I would like do these little kickbacks, just like super ridiculous things. And it was just fun. And I just kind of started getting a little community building. And to the point where people are like, oh, where did you get that band from? And I'm like, oh yeah, I got this from Ross, or like I would like link Amazon or whatever. And it was just like, Rocky. I was like, wait, hold up. I'm like, why am I giving this out?
Yeah.
Like, I'll sell it. So I just started like searching, and I was like, okay. And I found a manufacturer, and they just had these really lame booty bands. It was like ombre colors or whatever. And I was like, well, why would anybody buy that from me when you can get that for $14, $10 on Amazon? So I was just like, okay. If I were to use this, like I want local style stuff, right? So I was like, okay, so I designed one with spam musubis. Local faves is like probably one that sells really well. It's got like shoyu, like all kinds of stuff, right? Musubis, shakas, pineapples. And I just started doing like local stuff. And I said, hey, if I design this, can you print it on the booty bands? And they're like, yeah, extra free. I'm like, sure, whatever. And I like rolled out with it. I was so stoked. I got out, like, oh my gosh, I got bands. I told my girlfriend at the time, and she was like, do not roll that out. And I was like, I waited and paid like $250 for like a sample.
What was her reason?
She told me, you just get on your social media tomorrow and tell people that you bought these bands, you made these bands. She goes, that will be the difference between you having a product and you having a business for the rest of your life.
Boom.
And I was like, all right, teach me. So I started on some things, and then I had these bands like in my possession for 2 months, and we just like started an Instagram, started kind of like pumping it up, letting people know something was coming, I rolled that out, sold out 750 bands like the first weekend.
Oh, let's go.
And I was like, holy moly. And then that was her thing. She was like, you roll this out, it's just that you had this one-off thing, or you start building a brand around it. And I was like, okay. And that was that.
Dang.
That was that. Yeah. And the best part was, my little sister, Imua Kamema, I told her, I was like, I don't have another name for this band besides Okole. I think it's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
Okole band.
And it's local.
Right. I was like, Okole band. Like, everybody knows what Okole is. And she was like, you might get trolled because technically Elemu. I was like, or how many times will I have to explain what an Elemu band is versus an Okole band? Like, that was our legit conversation. I said, well, I'm going to do it.
Oh, I remember you explaining to me the difference between...
Yes, right. Yes. Okay, so like technically, right?
Although
all of us know slang is Okole, like it's more... it's for anus. Yeah. It's right. Elemu's for the butt cheeks more so, and Okole. And so I was like, you know what? Who said we're not working on our anuses here either? Like this is anus health is important. Okay. So I walked into this knowing I was going to get it.
Yeah.
But when I got it, I wasn't prepared to get it. And so
did you get harsh criticism for it?
It was a lot in the beginning was like comments from like, you know, KS graduates 2025, like, sis, I think you meant elemu. And I was like, no, I meant okole.
Yeah.
And so then I felt like I had to defend myself. And I hated that feeling.
Yeah.
And
because like, I mean, you're not doing anything negative. Like you got something good going on. You're getting people into shape, right? Especially the Polynesian community. Like, they really need to take care of our health.
Right.
So it's like, why are you coming at me?
Why are you coming at me? And I was like, oh, here's an example of just kind of like, a local person trying to do something, and other local people, right? And like, oh yeah, we support local, but only the people we want to support who are local.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, like can we say that louder? You know, and like that's a tricky one to navigate too when you come in this space. Is like people support local,
okay,
but only the ones they want to support local.
I agree. Or the only ones they want to see succeed.
Only the ones they want to see succeed.
So let me ask you this: so this whole Okole by Kamaile came about. Your upbringing, because I know your dad was a great man to me. Your family. Let's get into this.
Oh, take a sip of water. Going there.
Take a sip of water. So this whole Okole by Kamaile comes, and obviously you have to. So social media, right?
Yeah.
You're branding yourself. Obviously, you're gonna have to work all that part. How was it with your upbringing?
Yeah.
And even if you want to touch up on your upbringing,
yeah.
How was it with your upbringing and really focusing on building your brand? How was that as a whole? Like how hard, or till this day, how is it?
I remember the very first time I was going to post a picture of me on social media that maybe I was half naked in. And there is no OnlyFans, so do not ask. And
she don't do that. She don't do that.
And I remember going like, my husband's the best. He's like, what are you scared of? I was like, my mother. Like it was never my father. It's my mother. I'm scared of my mother. And he's like, you were 30 something years old. And I was just like, I just was so like, I don't want to disappoint her too. I'm just going to be judged. And I will say it happened slowly, right? So like you see me now, I'm pretty confident on socials. I'm not naked by any means, but like my brand is my body in a sense, right? So yeah, it took a little while. Like I was born and raised, I still am Christian, Mormon, and just very, very, very like modest, right? All of that like very modest was instilled in us at a very young age. And it kind of was part of my liberation into like my divine feminine. And it took me a long time, and I got a lot of flack from Christian women who just were like, oh, your poor husband, you doing that on socials. And I was like, not that I need to explain myself, but my husband, I usually go like, which do you like better? And he tells me which one he likes better, and I post that one. But people just had this idea, and I had to really sit back, self-aware, you know, and just kind of be like, what's causing this? And I had to remember, like, it was the same thing that I had. Like, I was so nervous to do that. And I think people want to step into some of this stuff, but they feel guilty almost. And so I was scared. Like, I was super scared. Like, I'll get stopped every once in a while, and people are like, are you the Okole girl? I'm like, it's Kamaile, actually, but thank you. And my mom took a while to get on board, and now she's like, oh, so-and-so needs this. Can I come by the house and buy this from you? You know, and then she'll post about stuff. But it took her a little while, because it is, you know, physically the brand. And
going to church, did you feel like eyes were on you?
Yes, but no one was ever brave enough to talk shit to my face. So I never heard anything. And that's kind of how I live my life. I'm like, I don't know haters really exist unless I hear it to my face. Like, other than that, I don't need to know about it, because that distracts me.
Yes, it's going to get you eyes off.
It takes away from what the vision is. And like, I have had to have conversations with women in my life, women, okay? And I've had to say, they're like, oh, I was out so-and-so was talking about you. And I was like, okay, what did you do? And they're like, whoa. And I was like, you have the power to stop anything, any conversation, any gossip, right where it is. You can just say, cool, I respect the way you feel about her, but we're not gonna talk about it, you know? Stop the conversation. So like, I had to tell people, like, if you hear stuff about me, why do you need to come and tell me?
Yeah.
Like, that's not, and they've been really confused by that. And like, I had one girl like, well, it's about you. I'm like, no, it's not about me. I may be the topic of conversation, but her gossiping about it is not about me. That's about her. Right? I was like, so it doesn't do me any service for you to come and tell me who's talking shit about me. Because in my land, I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
no, good.
oblivious
Yeah,
to it.
I'm good.
You know, like until something comes to my face and someone has the, you know, to say something to my face, I don't really know it exists.
Do you always felt like you were kind of like this, strong-willed or strong-hearted person? Or has that, in this entrepreneurship route for you, has that helped you just grow and gain that,
Strong-willed and soft heart. It's almost like the worst combo. So I feel like we just keep taking the punches, but we're crying the whole time we're doing it.
Yeah.
This, I would say, it didn't go one direction. Instead, it just taught me to love myself and have confidence. And so the reason why I show up every day, even when I don't want to, is because I believe in myself, right? And I believe in the greater picture. Like Okole by Kamaile, like you and I both know, like, yeah, that's the thing now, but it's not the end goal.
Yeah.
Like I have so many other things that this is going to eventually lead into. I just haven't introduced it yet, but my brain is not like, oh, this is it. Like there's so much more. There's so much more for our community. There's so much more for the Lahui as a whole, like everybody, and I'm like, I can't wait to get to a point where I can eventually introduce more things. The thing I've learned about it is you can buy my leggings anywhere. You can buy it online through me. You can buy it on Amazon and get a dupe. You can go through navigation. Like anybody sells a scrunch butt legging.
Yeah.
But it's me.
For sure.
So what I've noticed is every time I've pivoted, the ones who are for me pivot with me.
Yeah, because they support you.
Because they support me.
They're not supporting just the band or.
So that's why we show up, right? We show up for that group, so that we can keep showing up and pouring into them whatever it is that they are here for.
No, that's so spot on, because when I first started the village, that was a huge struggle for me because I never wanted to start a clothing brand.
Yeah.
T-shirts are the most saturated market you could possibly be in.
Right.
But I remember a good friend was telling me that, Rock, like, you're not selling T-shirts. You're selling your story. You're not even selling your story. You're sharing your story.
Yeah.
And all you need is a solid 100 people to just rock with you. And it doesn't have to be 100 people at the same time. But one turned into two, two turned into three, four. You know what I mean? And as they understand what, what you're trying to accomplish, what you're sharing, what you've gone through that made you this and created your story, I think like that's what it was. And, my boy Christian over here, he's behind the scenes right now. But I remember when I first started coming out with the village, like we used to meet up at the park and just talk story. And it really gave me the confidence to grow because, man, it really, like in the beginning when I told people what I wanted to do, nobody was interested. Like, they're like, oh, yeah. And I was like, man, like, I felt like we want to make impact in the community.
Right.
This is not just for self-gain.
Right.
And so it really isn't, because at the end of the day, if I never made any money, I mean, I of course we want to be successful and have great, income and finance or whatever.
Well, good people do good things.
Yes,
with money,
it's how you steward the
Yeah.
money that you get.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like when money comes in, it goes right back out.
Right.
We're constantly pouring, so many things that we're pouring to the community. But for me, it's like, man, it's so hard. Like, people only want to be there when it's like consuming it, right?
Yeah.
And they can be, like on the end part of, on the receiving. But it's like they don't want to really be there when it's so hard, when you just want to give up. You know?
I could talk about finances and money flowing and money as an energy all day. Like I could have a whole podcast on that and just how I felt about that, how I talk to money, like what letters I was writing to money in my journal at one point. Like, I want you to come on all my vacations, like I want you in all my life events, that kind of a thing. And not to take this into what's going on currently, but to touch just briefly on it with Maui, and kind of the struggle that we're all across the country is watching unfold. There's unity in some of the most amazing ways, and then there's divides in some of the most depressing ways that we're seeing, right? And because we're not on that island, we're not getting all of the information. We know we're not getting all the information and whatnot. But I'm part of this young kind of wahine entrepreneur group, and a lot of them just kind of didn't know what to post during that time. And that was really important. Like I took a pause, like we all took a pause, and they were scared to get back selling their product. Yeah. But this made a living for their home, their ohana, like was this small business. Yeah. And there were other small business entrepreneurs who were like, shame on you for continuing with your businesses. Like you should be taking a pause. All of that you make should be going to, the relief. And I didn't want to be so vocal, but I was waiting for a time to share this, but it's been on my heart. I have my little broadcast on my Okole Babes, my channel, and I just kind of like leave them little messages. But I was like,
this is the time.
This is the time, And I said, here's the thing. about money and us having unique talents and podcasts and platforms is so that we can share. In the beginning, like I was so excited to help in any way, and hats off to you for getting a lot of that stuff going at the stevedores. And everybody had a drop off somewhere, and I was like, let's just route everybody to Rocky. That was me. That's what I did on my platform. Let's just route everybody here. But I was not going to stop working.
Yeah.
Right. So in the beginning, it was like, what can I do? We were all just kind of like, as more information comes out, we pivot with it.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like, I need to continue growing and making money and have money flowing to my family so that when you call upon me for help, I can give it to you.
Yes.
If I don't, then I cannot give. Here's the thing, right? This is not a one month thing. This is not a 1 year thing or when the media starts to fall off. This is something that is going to potentially affect generations and our children and legacies, right? But everybody in our community, and that's why I love that we're talking about this, the village, the community. When I think about the village, right, has a role. And understanding what does Scottie Pippen say? Like, understanding your role on the team is probably the hardest thing to come to grips with. Is like understanding that everybody needs everybody in their roles, a lead person. Right? Even if you think it's something really small, my role may not be on the front line with you as a stevedore right now. My role might come in 6 years when it's time to build, when it's time for construction. But if I were to stop right now, I won't be there to give it to you when the time comes. Because
opportunity presents. Are you ready for the opportunity?
So we cannot go around shaming people into doing it a certain way. We need everybody to be functioning at their capacity. So when it's time to give, you can step in. Rocky gave week 1. He's a stevedore. He got up on the line. Our community needs leaders like that who have expertise and experience and connections to do things like that very quickly. But they also need people like us to spread the word, to give the donations, right? Like we go hand in hand. It's a relationship. There's not one in the community that is greater than the other. And so part of that money thing that we talked about, or like having energy and this money flowing to us, is we cannot tell the universe, I don't want anything right now because I'm trying to, just work on donations. Like, no, I need to still receive, because when people make good money, they do good things, right? So that when my time comes to help, I can. No questions asked.
No, I think these last 2 weeks, I mean, man, heartbreaking for sure.
Heartbreaking.
But I do believe on everybody's kind of looking for the next person to see when are they gonna start making the move to getting back to their current state, right? Because I mean, we still have bills. Like for us,
they don't go away.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, right? It's so touchy, is because we're almost compared to the people that have lost everything, but that's not our lives. And I think it's like sometimes when you say it blunt like that, like it's
insensitive.
Yeah, it's insensitive, and like you're not trying to be insensitive. But at the end of the day, I still have my kids that I have to feed. I still have my bills that I have to pay. And like you said, like for me, being in a position when opportunities come, I can help, I can give back, but I do have to push my business. I do have to get. I
still have to live.
Yes,
I still have to live. I have to take care in my home so that I can take care out of my home.
And that's hard, because I did kind of pull back, right?
We all did. We all took a pause.
Nobody's like,
nobody knew what to do.
But then I do also see people out there that's like the whole situation in Maui, right? Like you have the rest of Maui who still have to operate, and they're all like, no, we're not shut down. Like, you know what I mean?
You're hearing, that's what I'm saying. Like you're seeing two sides, right?
So it's such a hard place, but I do believe at the end of the day, we can't pour into people if we have nothing to pour. If we don't have the resources to give, we won't be able to give.
That's it.
You know what I mean? That's it. But then people just automatically assume that because you have a business or because you have this resource that you can constantly stuff. But sometimes it's like, man, like my resources get dry too if I'm not going about my regular life.
Part of it is us having platforms is giving our followers and our community permission to live their life. Right? Because a lot of them stood still for a while. And I'm like, I'm giving you permission to live. Because what a disservice it would be if we stopped living while half of our Hawaiian families over there stopped living. Right? Like, no. I give you permission to show up the way you need to on your platforms for your business, for your family, to create that income, to bring that in so that we can give it back out. Like I fully believe that whatever I put out comes back to me threefold.
Oh, come on now. I totally believe that too.
So I'm like, it's just money.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the stuff that we all do is from the pureness of our heart. You know what I mean? Like we have the right intentions, and that's why it comes back the way it comes back. You know what I mean? With everything that's going on in life, you have some pretty major pivots going
Yeah.
on right now. So let's touch upon that if you don't mind.
So my husband is a big white dude. He's like 6'6", and his brother's 6'10", and his wife is 6'6", and
Oh,
they all
dang.
played basketball. And so my nephew just signed with San Diego State. He's 6'10".
Oh, congrats.
And my niece, who's 6'9", just graduated from Berkeley. She played there. And then she just signed with Oregon State. So she's
nice.
going to go do her master's and still play. Like, what an opportunity. And so my son, who's 15, who's about 6'5" now, was up in the mainland traveling. He made this elite basketball team, and he needs to be there for March. And I will tell you, this is the thing about being an entrepreneur, right? Like, if there's a will, there's a way, right? You find it, like, and you exhaust every option. And this is what our son wanted to do. He wanted to play. And we ended up actually he was at Lelehua, and we went to the DOE. We did everything we could, and we got him enrolled fourth quarter virtually. So he was in school, pulled him out, did everything out virtually, his courses, and he just traveled all over the U.S. playing basketball on the Adidas circuit. And we didn't think, we're like, whoa, I can't believe we did this. We never would have done this, but the pandemic happened, right? So like, you're just thinking of new ways.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was that high school was like, we really want him to stay and play. And we just kicked it and kicked it and kicked it and kicked it. And then like 2.5 weeks ago, they're like, so we're planning for him. And we're like, uh-oh. And we put all of our energy, we made a decision, put all of our energy into that. And God just paved the way, like, boom, 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 boom. Got a house, like got the kids registered. And so we're just picking up and we're leaving. And my husband's hesitant because our business is here. And so he's going to be commuting for a little bit, and we're not going to be together 24/7. And I can only think about, like, I don't have furniture in my house, right? And he's thinking that. And
You want to touch on your husband's business?
we'll come back. We'll come. But I think the biggest thing was, I had heard on a podcast somewhere a while ago, it probably was like Ed Milet, that it was like, how can you tell your children to live their dreams if they don't ever see you doing it? And it was one of those things where, like, we make all these sacrifices for our businesses all the time, and our children see that. And I was like, and we need to show him that, like, we're willing to back him in his dream. Yeah. No, I mean, we have a construction company. We're a general contractor, and we do a lot of, like I said earlier, like high-end builds, residential. And we actually just moved into doing a lot of church projects as well. So he will probably be in Maui just trying to, I think they're turning a lot of the chapels into shelters and stuff like that. So, ways that we can give back. There's more than just one way. But so that's our biggest pivot right now, is we're just going in. And I said, I would rather go and hate it and come home than regret it and wonder.
Yeah.
I
like what you said about with your son, right? We do the things that we need to do to further our dreams.
Yeah.
Right. But when it comes to their dreams, because, like, for me, sometimes I get so caught up in what I'm trying to do that, I forget, like, am I truly doing it for the betterment of just myself or all of us?
Right.
What I mean? And I think that's good, because sometimes I forget, about my kids' dreams too. You know what I mean?
I mean, local people are so good about it. They will put their lives on hold for their children and take them to practices and football and all the things, right? And
7
that's my
days a
cousin. Okay, whatever. Like, they really are all about the kids. But there's something really special about you being about your dream and your children watching you be about your dream, and then them following suit through example, versus, you don't do anything, then you turn around to your kid and, like, hey, I need you to make it to the NFL, and they're like, I believe in you, like, just what we talked about. Like, these are young, moldable kids, and they're so susceptible because there's so much more at their fingertips than what you and I had growing up. That they can waver so quickly, and, like, they need people. Like, that's why, like, even in the football community, like, you're well known, right? Like, there's a few coaches that are really well known, like, giving back, and I'm like, young kids like that need people like that in the community to show up for them.
Yeah,
they need it. Like, that's the kind of stories you're going to hear 20 years from now, that you touched their lives and changed it, and you didn't even know. You're I was just out here throwing, showing you how to do footwork. But, like, it's those lessons for the kids, right? Like, people showing up for them, people believing in them, people speaking life into them when they don't believe in themselves, or they don't have it at home.
Yeah, no, I think that's a reason why, or part of a reason why I'm so passionate about kind of just coaching and giving back, is because I was fortunate. I had all the type of coaches you could have, but I had really good coaches that inspired me, right? To continue to work hard, and gave me the foundation that I needed and gave me the hope. today, like, I'm so grateful. I don't know how we're pivoting into this point, but we are.
Let's go.
But it's like, I see so many people volunteering coaching, right? Volunteering and giving their time back and coaching. And coaching is not, at the youth level, it's not a paid position. For all those parents that doesn't know that.
Yeah.
There you go. But it's like, man, like, it's like some of them are trying to relive a dream that they had where they didn't play or whatever. But man, it's like, I think that's where a lot of us try and come in, is because some of these guys ruin it for these kids.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad, because it's like everybody wants to coach that star-studded kid. That kid that's the most athletic, makes all the points, scores all the touchdowns, all of that. But it's like when you get that kid that you really got to mold, and really got to give attention to, not all the time do you get coaches that are willing to do that. You know what I mean? To really build them up. And then, like, man, some of the stuff I hear on the field, I'm just like, that's crazy.
Right.
And they don't know the impact that they have, because you have people that can impact you in a positive way, and you can have coaches that can impact you in such a negative way where I don't want to play the sport.
Right.
And I think that's why there's a lot of us that come into this situation where it's like, man, like, because I had it, I give back, right? And it's just like, whether it's in business, coaching, whatever. But I think that same thing, you know.
That was one of the big things, is like, we gave, I leave coaches' names and things out of this, but we gave a couple of coaches opportunities, and they just didn't step up to the plate. And it became really obvious that they weren't about the kids, you know, and I get it. Like, a lot of them are not paid. A lot of them are volunteers. We got dad coaches kind things, you know, but like, at the end of the day, like, it's about the kids.
For sure.
You know, and so we just looked for options. And my husband and I, we always said, like, I'm born and raised here, you know, like, I don't want to leave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we built our life here, our businesses, but we'll do whatever we need to do for our kids. And it's just a season. Yeah. It's just this season.
And you don't know what comes from it, right? You know?
So. We're open to the potential that the universe wants to give us, you know, at this time. Yeah. And like, I'm excited for that.
So what do you have planned ahead? What are some major goals that you just want to crush in the near future? What's on the plate? What's on the helm right now?
I mean, there's lots of little things, lots of little things that I could just kick around just for fun. But the main goal will and always will be, you know, keeping our land in Hawaiian hands. And my father's actually an attorney. He's a real estate attorney. I don't know if you knew that.
I never knew that.
Okay.
I always knew he was an attorney.
Right. We all knew he was an attorney. And it's so funny because I didn't, what did that mean to me? It didn't mean anything to me. And I always remember the kids in my class be like, oh, that means you're rich. You know, I'm like, what? No, we're not. You know, like, yeah, your dad's an attorney, it means you're rich. I'm like, well, he doesn't share it with me. He does now, actually. He's actually very kind. But I did not say that. But like, that's, you know, so I've always been around OHA or that kind of a thing, right? Or grassroots things that my dad was in about land usage and, you know, like, not to go back to Maui, but even like a really big issue is the water, right? Yeah. Water is life. Yeah. And we are now learning that a lot of that water was tied up. Yeah. Why? Because of money. Who owns it? Or, you know, things like that. And so that's a big thing for me. Here, let's go here. I actually did 101 financial for like 10 years and I was the dean of instructors, which is the highest you can be. And I did that for a long time and I lived that program. Like, I really did. I had multiple homes and I still live it. And I got fired from there because I wanted to expand and do other things. And he just was not having it. And my dad actually wanted me to sue him. And I was just like, we're just not putting any more energy into that. And that was something I felt ashamed of, even though I did nothing wrong. Yeah. And I kept that quiet for a long time until I finally came out and was like, no, F this, you know, like people didn't know my story. And then sometimes I'm still hearing people like, oh, that's not the story I heard. And I was like, well,
there's always two sides to the story.
Okay. Yeah. But one of the things was we had a house. We what we do is we kind of buy a house, we live in it, either we HELOC it, flip it, or whatever. We take the money, we buy the next house. And so we were living in Eva and we had a house and it was small. It was kind of small and I was pregnant with my fourth kid and only had 3 bedrooms. So I was like, I know I wasn't going to be there long. So we were there. I said, oh, I'll be here for 1 year. And everybody laughed at me. Like, I remember my sister being like, oh, okay. You know, and I was like, okay, it was 18 months.
Watch me.
It was 18 months. So it was a little bit longer than a year. And I bought the house across the street in the bigger development because I could see it. And I go, that's the one. Can you imagine seeing your goal in front of your face every day? What that would do for you? Yeah. Right? I saw that. I said, that's the house I want. I'm moving over there. Give me a year. It took us 18 months. We HELOC'd our property. We had it paid down so low. We had pulled out the money, bought the next house. And I literally watched my house from my backyard. Yeah. I watched my tenants, whatever. We eventually sold it. We put it up like right at the height of things, you know. And I remember telling my realtor, who's a good family friend, shout out Josh Harita, but I was like, he said, we're going to open it from Wednesday to Sunday and close it. That's how fast. We had so many offers. And I said, okay, we'll look through who's local, everybody else off the list.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, and I was like, no, I don't even care if they were not the highest. If you're not local, you're off the list.
And that's good because you're in that position to be able to do things like that. Because as a local person trying to buy, right?
Right.
If you people don't understand that, like, that's kind of how this world works. You know what I mean? Like being in a position where you can help the narrative or the situation.
Right.
And then being a person who's going out there to buy and like, man, I'm competing with all these people who are out of state that have more money than me.
Cash.
Cash. And I'm a local boy or local girl. You know what I mean? Born and raised here.
But it goes back to what you said.
Yeah.
Be about it. Don't just talk about it. Be about it. So when push comes to shove, like how many local people in that position would say, okay, I'll take 60 less to make sure a local person lives here versus this extra 60 could get my family this, or that. Yeah. Right? Like, I don't know. So like it is part of our job to educate, right? Part of having a platform is to teach people. Like it's up to you to change the trajectory of your family's legacy moving on. True. And I think everything that we talked about today goes back to we're breaking cycles. Oh, yeah. We're breaking the cycles that our ancestors couldn't break because they were just trying to survive. Yeah. We're breaking cycles through whatever our parents taught us because that's what they thought. You know, like we're breaking through a lot of these things.
Because back then there's a lot of just one-way things.
Oh, yeah.
Like
black and white.
Yeah, black and white. Yeah. Yeah. So now it's like we see things from so many different, angles, perspective. Even with the people that we encounter, right? It changes the way we think, our process, right? Yeah. So like, and we can choose at the end of the day how I want to go about this. But it goes back to how can I positively influence, right? With the platform that I have, right? So that's good, man. That's good. Want to touch up on any other things?
No, I think we covered plenty.
I think that was good for the first one. I'm so glad to have you as, my first.
I was excited to be here.
Yeah, when I was being that this is the first podcast, I was like, man, like who could I just, and with the situation that you're leaving, like it just kind of sped up things super quick. But I was like, man, like, because I knew you for so long and we share so much similarities in like just our hustle, sports background, just our families, you know what I mean? Right. So man, I was super, grateful that you, had the time and we could make this happen. So
easy though. Just rap. Yeah. We just rap.
Just rap.
Easy. You know why? Because we live it. Exactly. This is our real life experience. We're not talking about somebody else's. We're not trying to show you what we learned on a podcast. Like we've actually lived it. Yeah. Blood, sweat, tears, joy, Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, so, I got the village, right?
Aye, the village.
Yes. So.
Yes, sir.
Quick, if you can just do like, just kind of recall just a time and place where things were super hard, where you went through a time in life where you needed that village, that community to really just help you get through. Could you share something?
This is a really hard question, actually.
Dun, 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 dun.
I know. No, fuck that bitch song. No, just kidding. Cut that out. I gotta say, my husband, he's been my rock, my community. And he's always behind the scenes. He's not really up in the front. Like
he's real chill.
He's real chill. People are like, "Are you?" People. He told me last night in base, like, "Did you see that person comment on your post?" I go, "What did they say? Are you married? Are you single?" And I'm like, "Did you see?" I never respond. But him, like, to go back what you said, I've never. It's so important to have somebody who believes in you when you don't believe in yourself. Totally. Like, that is gold. Yeah, because you can't fake that shit. Yeah. When someone believes in you, when you don't even believe in yourself, like that's everything. And he's been that rock for me. Like every idea I come up with, he told me, I said, I want to try this one thing, but I'm kind of nervous. He's like, what are you nervous about? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, if it's about the money to make it happen, he's like, don't worry about that. He's like, just do it. Like if you think you can do it, just do it. Figure it out. Just figure it out. We'll figure it out. And it's just like, he has opened my like mind into what it means to really unconditionally support someone and believe in them. And he's such a good dad because he does that for the kids too, So I'm going to say, it's him, but to further, like he's been my village. Yeah. He's been my village and my kids, because They come to the pop-ups. They help me at the post office. They're there. Like this is not anything new. This is what mom does. Yeah. This is what dad does. This is who we are. So life. This is our life. So this has become their example. So they're part of my village. They're part of my community. I rely on them to help me. Hey, you got to take your brother here or whatever. And they do it. They willingly do it because they're proud of me. Yeah. They'll say things like, "Oh, this one's so like your post." They're proud of me. Yeah. It's kind of amazing because that's a community that you literally built yourself. You grew them, you built them, you poured into them. So whatever they're giving back to me is a mirror right now, right? And I'm seeing it. And I'm like, God damn, they teach me every day, but they also have taught me I'm on the right track with them.
Yeah.
So my village is in my home.
Right on.
But I will say, as far as villages go, right, to recap on that, when I think about the village, because I was thinking about that today. When I think about a village and a community, it's always in a positive light. I never think of it in a toxic way, but I always think of how there are so many members that make up a village and everybody has a role. And so I guess my shout out will be instead of questioning your role, instead of comparing your role to somebody else in your village, perfect your craft, develop your talent, develop your skill, be proud of it. Don't compare, don't imposter syndrome. Oh man, I'm Rocky, No, what did God give me? Yeah. Develop that because you are an essential part of the village, right? Good. We have hunter-gatherers. We have all these people that do different things for different reasons, but collectively together, we can only be strong when we're part of the village. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is if you're sitting here wondering, what do I offer to my community? You have something, but it is community still requires you as an individual to develop that talent. Yeah. Take the time, perfect your craft, and then come out and serve others. Yeah.
So good.
Yes.
So good. Hey, Kamaile, man, I really appreciate you making the time. I'm glad we had this opportunity.
I could talk all day. Putting out.
Yes, we could. But, it's that time, so let's fade ourselves back out.
Smooth it out. You go, turn back up. There you go. Oh yeah.
We're doing it. Episode 1, down. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. All right.